Welcome to Northamptonshire for the 9th and 10th rounds of the Miller's Oils Toyota MR2 Championship at the Rockingham Motor Speedway. The 750 Motor Club's One Make series for the iconic Japanese sports cars has provided some tremendous racing in the first 4 double-headers of the 2013 season, as Matt Suckling found out.
Okay, down here with Patrick Mortel. Patrick, halfway stage of the season pretty much for the MR2s. How do you think the season's gone so far?
It's gone really, really well so far. We're normally at this point, we'll find we've got a front runner and he started to stretch a lead, but the way it's going, we've got guys at the front who are there because they've had a number of really good races. We've got guys there that are there because they've been towards the front, but consistently towards the front. So at the moment it really is wide open. If Matt Palmer can continue his form, he might be able to snatch it away towards the end of the season, but let's not forget everybody's got to drop 2 scores, which will really change things up.
We're here at Rockingham today, pretty new challenge for most drivers. How do you reckon the guys are going to cope, and the girls?
First time MR2 Championship have been here, so nobody's that familiar with it, certainly not compared to the other circuits we go to. Some guys have done some testing. There's an all-comers race today as well that some people have entered in just to find their way around the circuit. And again, you know, to mention Matt Palmer, I know he's doing that race, but other than that, he's never been here before, so it'd be very interesting to see where that places him.
I think it's fair to say as well, lap times this year are starting to drop, so guys are getting quicker. What do you reckon the reason behind that is?
There are a couple of reasons, I think. One is that we've opened the regulations up for suspension. One of our sponsors, White Line, have provided camber bolts for people, so we can get a bit more adjustment in there, and a bit more consistent adjustment. Previously they were using crash bolts which could move if they hit a curb or something like that, so that's one of the reasons. The other is again to mention a sponsor. Miller's Oils have brought out a new nano drive technology oil, which means the engine's running that little bit cooler, but that little bit faster as well. It reduces the friction inside the engine.
With 2 races today, as always, we expecting a lot of action?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm certainly going to be keeping an eye on the banking. Very conscious of the fact that it's very wide at that point, very fast, and if you get it wrong, there's a wall on one side. So hopefully people will remain calm and nobody will go into the wall, but yeah, certainly going to be very exciting.
Clive Morfitt from the Toyota MR2s. Clive, you're pretty consistent this year with some good results. What's been the best race you've had to date?
Pembury. A month ago in the wet, got a 3rd place, and that's only my 2nd podium I've ever had, so that was a good day for me, yeah. And
you're doing pretty well in the championship. It's nicely bunched, so you've got a chance of moving up this weekend.
I'm consistent this year. I've done a bit of work with AW Tracksport. We're just getting the car a little bit better. I'm driving a bit harder, so yeah, running consistent in the top 10 now, which is good after a number of years.
Shane Mansbridge from the MR2s down here in the paddock with us. Shane, you're getting ready for qualifying very shortly. First off, just talk to us about how the season's gone for you and what racing you've done before.
Racing wise, as a kid, I've sort of done a bit of mini stock racing, and then primarily been on sort of bikes, really, doing motocross, off-road bikes, that sort of thing. This is the first year in MR2s. Hasn't been too bad. It's been a bit of a learning curve. Started off with brands and sort of creeping my way up the field. Snetted in my home track wasn't particularly a good round. I sort of took on some damage in race 1 and had some car issues, but Donington was a lot better at the last round, so hopefully we'll have some better results here.
Well, it's one of the roadsters on pole position. Jim Davis lines up on the front of the grid next to Michael Wells, who was twice a podium finisher at Donington. Matthew Palmer was the double Donington winner. He's 3rd on the grid. The rookie Christian White an excellent 6th. Matthew Wallace missed Donington due to a head gasket failure. A new engine for him, he's 8th. Erstwhile championship leader Stuart Nichols is 10th. Clive Morfitt, who we heard from, is on the outside of row number 7. Ben Rowe and Alex Knight, well, they've both been race winners this season, but they're back on row 8 and 10 respectively. Nigel Ralphson has a 2-place grid penalty. He lines up 21st, and towards the back of the grid, Shane Mansbridge is 25th, while Mark Bithry is right at the back of the grid due to technical irregularities in qualifying. A great field of 28 cars then lined up on the grid for the first Miller's Oil's Toyota MR2 Championship race ever to take place at Rockingham. 13 minutes plus 1 lap ahead of us. Christian White lines up on the outside of row 3. The lights go out, we're underway at Rockingham. Christian White there making a decent start, but Jim Davis and Michael Wells are side by side going into turn 1. Jim Davis in the red Roadster, it's the green MR2 Mark II for Mike Wells. He's going to be on the outside line as they head down to Dean Hairpin for the first time. Matthew Palmer trying to have a look up the inside of Jim Davis as well as we go on board with Jonathan Grimes as he heads down to Dean Hairpin. Oh, and there's contact down there with the Christian White car, and I think he's taken out one of the floppy markers as well. Has that caused any damage to the front of Jonathan Grimes' Roadster? He qualified very well, has some new suspension on the car for this weekend, but is struggling now, and you can see the front bumper being dragged underneath the car of Jonathan Grimes. He's losing places now. Tim Heron has gone through, so has the 89 car of Mick Nichols as well, and I get the feeling that Jonathan Grimes is going to be pit bound, which is a great shame because he started on 7th on the grid. Well, this is the view from Stuart Nichols' car. You saw there what happened. We can see Jonathan Grimes losing places on the exit of the corner as well as Stuart Nichols trying to go up the inside there. Meanwhile, out front it is Jim Davis that leads. Mike Wells is in second place. Mike had his 5th and 6th career podiums in the MR2 Championship last time out at Donington Park. He's only got 1 race win to his name so far in his career though. That came at Anglesey last season. 92 is Dan Holmes, 22 is Mark Barber, and 33 is Alex Knight, who's got work to do after qualifying only 20th on the grid. Here are the leaders though, and it is Jim Davis, the man from Stratford-upon-Avon, that leads the way then. In second place it's the Somerset driver, Mike Wells, as a Royal Navy helicopter pilot by occupation, as Jonathan Grimes there is coming into the pit lane. In fact, this is the school pit lane, it's not the main pit lane here at Rockingham, but nevertheless Jonathan Grimes is our first retirement with that damage to his front bumper. Dean Hairpin, lap 2, and the top 4 are pulling away. Behind Matthew Palmer in 3rd place, it's John Wilson, and John is our championship leader coming into this weekend. He is 5 points clear of Timothy Heron before drop scores are taken into account. Once you do take the drop scores into account, it's this man though that leads the championship. That's Matt Palmer. He's had a great run of form. 4 race wins on the bounce at Pembrey and at Donington Park as well. The 22-year-old from Reading is having something of a purple patch. It's not purple he's looking for now though, it's green. It's Mike Wells that's in second place that he's trying to attack. The danger here is that Mike, the 32-year-old from Somerset, might let the race leader get away. Here's Stuart Nichols then. He has work to do. He'll have been disappointed with 10th position on the grid for this weekend's racing. He's struggling there though through Gracelands. Does well to keep it on the tarmac, I think. Heads his way down towards Tarzan Hairpin, and he's trying to battle away there with Tim Heron as well. You can see the 2 father and son blue and white MR2 Roadsters run by Rogue Motorsport are virtually together there, as there's the Roadster that leads the race. It's Jim Davis leading, Mike Wells second, Matt Palmer third, and John Wilson in 4th position. They've really left the rest of them standing. Here comes Palmer then in 3rd place, car number 18. Had a disastrous opening round of the championship at Brands Hatch. He's watching the 2 leaders, duking it out though, taking the very low line through turn 1 goes Mike Wells, but a lower line out of the corner being taken by Matt Palmer. He goes alongside, does he go through to second place? He does. So Mike Wells loses out there. He goes down to 3rd position. It's Matt Palmer up to P2. Looks like Christian White is there in 5th position and Luke Austin in 6th. But top 4 battling away. Matthew Wallace is 7th. And then we get to the first of the Nichols cars. Here's Christian White. We're looking back from his car. Of course, that of the local man from Northampton. And that's Luke Austin. Christian White then, the Bracknell driver, has had a decent start to the season, had a good meeting at Brands Hatch in terms of his pace, but he's having a bit of a moment there, a big Larry moment through Kirby. Is he able to hold on to 5th position? Matthew Wallace meanwhile in the 72 car is attacking Luke Austin now for 6th place as they head into Gracelands. That's the 89 car of Mick Nichols, bringing up the rear of that group. Just ahead of him is Tim Heron, and just ahead of him is Mick's son Stuart. Stuart was leading the championship going into the Pembrey round, but he and his father missed that Welsh meeting, opting instead to come here to Rockingham to get some extra testing in. You have to say, has it done as much good as they would have liked, because they're not right up at the sharp end this weekend. Mike Wells then down to third position. John Wilson is there in fourth. And you just sense now that Matt Palmer in second is getting away from that scrap, but in turn Jim Davies is pulling away from Matt Palmer in the lead of the race. The two different types of car, the Mark III Roadster and the Mark II, do race in different classes, but this season for the first time there's an overall classification as well as far as the championship is concerned, which is really proving to be quite exciting, because the Mark IIs and the Mark IIIs pretty evenly matched. Some circuits favouring one, some the other. Christian White there making a mistake though at Dean Hairpin. Corner certainly didn't favour his Mark II, because Matthew Wallace was able to just find a way through on the inside with relative ease. Possibly White getting his braking point wrong there for the Dean Hairpin through Yentwood. This is now the technical part of the circuit. Oh, and Shane Mansbridge has a spin, I'm afraid. He's left facing the oncoming traffic. He'll have to try and loop that round. He's heading back up the oval banking, and he can resume his race. But the Norfolk driver will be a little bit disappointed with that. His first season in MR2 racing. And that, I think, was Christian White having another moment, and that's given Luke Austin a passage through on the inside, and Stuart Nichols is trying to find his way through as well. It's going to be side by side as they go through the left-hander at Gracelands. I think Nichols has made that through. Now can he attack as they go down to Tarzan to get the place away from Luke Austin? This now is going to be the fight for 6th position, because Matthew Wallace is in 5th place, just a little bit further up the road. Austin is 6th, and White has somehow got 7th back there at Tarzan. Here's the view from Mick Nichols. Closes up under braking. Tim Heron ahead of us in the 23 car. And lots of sprinting and hill climbing in the past as Tim, but still a relative newcomer to circuit racing. And improving in this his second season by second in the championship before drop scores are taken into account, because the points format in the MR2 championship really does reward consistency. 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th together there, and they're headed by Christian White at the moment. Looking back, he can see a Roadster, a Mark II and another Roadster. It's Stuart Nichols right behind, right alongside now as they turn through Dean Hairpin. Look in the background as well, because Tim Heron might lose place, but Stuart Nichols gets a bit sideways on the way out of the corner. That allows Tim Heron through. So Heron goes up to 8th, Stuart Nichols goes down to 9th, trying to get 8th back though at Yentwood as they climb up the hill now towards Chapman. There was a little bit of a climb there out of Yentwood towards the right-hander at Chapman, named after Colin Chapman, of course, the Lotus team owner and racing car designer extraordinaire. So Heron, Stuart Nichols, Mick Nichols, that is the order of this little battle. They're fighting over 8th, 9th and 10th positions at the moment. Luke Austin, meanwhile, has got away a little bit. He's in 7th. There's Mick Nichols then, turning their way through Gracelands now, down towards the right-hand step, and what a spin! And off into the gravel, that's Mick Nichols. Well, I'm not sure that he's going to get out of there. The gravel traps can be quite deep here at Rockingham. We're on board with him now. Anyone else involved? Well, I think he saw Stuart having a slight moment ahead of him. Possibly that distracted him, possibly he got off the power a little bit, maybe the car unsettled. I wonder if he'll be blaming his son for that one when they get back to the paddock to chew it over after the race. They won't have much time for chewing though, because it's quite a short gap between the first and second races here today. So it'll be all hands on deck to get gravel out of Mick Nichols' car, I shouldn't wonder. So that's the 85 car of the former Fiat racer Nigel Ralphson. This is the battle for places in the mid-teens at the moment. Also involved is Dan Holmes in the number 92 car, that's the bright green machine. 22 is Mark Barber as well. 58 is Mark Bithry. He's battling with the number 80 car of Dave Asbury, who's another newcomer to the championship for this season. Asbury battling with the man who's come up from the back of the grid, Asbury from Romford, 37 years of age, a developer by occupation. A few track days, but now getting into the racing scene. Back on board with White, who's had an eventful race so far, having started in 6th position on the grid. Ooh, and it's getting ever more eventful, isn't it? It's having to really fight the car here. Well, he's kept it out of the gravel and the track surroundings, but he's lost a couple of places because of that. Stuart Nichols, who's had his own dramas, has scrambled his way through. There may have been a smidgen of contact as he did so. That was a little bit unavoidable, really. He saw an opportunity, he grasped it with both hands. There's Alex Knight. It's Clive Morford up ahead of him. And that car that AW Track Sports have done some work on. It's really helped him a little bit this season. Knight, of course, was the winner of the first round of the championship on the Brands Hatch Indy circuit at the end of April. But he's not been able to repeat that form since, but he's going to attack Morford now. Oh, and a spin-up. And it's 42, and that's Andrew Franklin from Romford. Andrew, still a relative newcomer to racing. Still learning the lines around here. Meanwhile, we're going on to the final lap, and Jim Davies it is that still leads the way. Matt Palmer second, Mike Wells third, and John Wilson fourth. The green flag there, because there is still that car recovering. Here's this battle. It's between Knight and Morford. They're battling over 11th and 12th positions now. They're going to go side by side down to Dean Hairpin, but Knight, you would think, has got the better line. Now, if Morford, if he's clever, will try and switch back on the inside on the exit of the corner. He sort of has a go, wasn't really close enough, but Knight got a big slide on coming out of the corner, so that gives Morford another chance. The brake lights come on and go off, almost as one, as meanwhile Dan Holmes, that's him gone for a spin, and he's nerfed the barrier as well, possibly a little bit of damage to his MR2, and that's a shame. He's going to lose places because of that. He was up in about 14th or 15th position. Could be about half a dozen cars that go through. There's the stricken car of Mick Nichols in the gravel trap at Gracelands. John Wilson making his way through. He's lapped now that number 42 car of Andrew Franklin, which had the spin. Jim Davies has had an excellent race though. 4th in the championship coming into this weekend. 3 podiums in the last 4 races, but yet to have an outright win this season in the Miller's Oils Toyota MR2 Championship. But all that is about to change, because out of Brook Chicane, out of turn 4 he comes. He takes the checkered flag to win at Rockingham. More drama for Mark Barber there in the number 22 car. He has another moment, and so does Mark Bithry, 58, who was starting right at the back of the grid. He'd recovered a lot of places, but the 40-year-old from Hartley, the building surveyor, hasn't helped his cause there. Here's Shane Mansbridge. He's battling with Vincent Price's Roadster. This is his 23rd and 24th position. Down to Tarzan Hairpin for the last time. And through on the inside goes Shane Mansbridge. Now, can Price fight back? He's in the 6th of the 6 Roadsters that we've had here at Rockingham this weekend. That's the best entry yet for the Mark III cars. More and more drivers being encouraged to bring them out as the cars become more competitive. So competitive that they can win races as well. Jim Davies takes the flag and he beats Matthew Palmer by 2.4 seconds. Mike Wells another 1.5 seconds back in 3rd. John Wilson, Matthew Wallace and Luke Austin complete the top 6. Fastest lap of the race, that went to the race winner as well. 1:46.179 seconds, an average of very nearly 70 miles per hour.
Jim Davies, winner of the first Toyota MR2 Championship race there. Nice to see the Roasters coming to the fore now.
Yeah, I honestly didn't think this would be a Roadster track. It seems like a power track, but somehow managed to pull it through.
Hot work out there today. Is the car coping? You coping all right?
I was saying to the lads in the team, I sort of wish I'd left the aircon in. Yeah, it's awful.
Rockingham is suiting you well at the minute. You've got the second race to come. Is it going to be the double victory? I'm sure you're hoping for that.
Yeah, got issues to sort out with gear linkage before second race. I had the first few laps managing the gear change issues. Threw me on a few corners and then they managed to gain some ground on me, but hopefully we'll get it sorted for next race. It'll be easier.
Well, join us again at Rockingham for race 2 in a few moments' time. All set for the second race of the afternoon in the 750 Motors Club Millers Oils Toyota MR2 Championship. The grid set by the second fastest qualifying times of this morning. Jim Davis and Mike Wells on the front row again. Matt Palmer and Luke Austin row 2. John Wilson and Matt Wallace on row 3 of the grid. Well, what can Mike Wells do this time? We're on board with Jonathan Grimes, so it's good to see he's back out there. He starts 10th on the grid, having patched up his roadster. He got damage on the second corner of the first race. Let's see what he can do. Good start this time from Mike Wells, and he gets ahead of Jim Davis as they go down into turn 1. Jim Davis, I think, might have missed a gear there because he's swallowed up by the pack, and the race 1 winner is down to about 5th or 6th position. Matt Palmer goes 2nd, John Wilson into 3rd place, and who's going to be 4th? It's going to be probably Matthew Wallace that can make that position his own, as this 28 car field rounds Dean Hairpin for the first time. Mike Wells it is though that leads as they climb up to Chapman Curve. Palmer and then Wilson, and yes, it is indeed the car of Wallace in 4th place. There's Dan Holmes, he finished 19th in the end in race 1 after that spin. He's in the green car, not that one, because that's Mike Wells in the lead of the race. Jim Davis just tucked in behind the number 88 car of Stuart Nichols there, and going around the outside of Luke Austin. Jonathan Grimes now having a look down the inside of Luke Austin as they make their way down the steel straight into the left-hander at Gracelands. Luke Austin, who in the earlier race finished in a fine 6th position, but he's been relegated 1 position there by Grimes, whose car looks a little bit patched up. It's a tank tape special, but so far it's working rather effectively. Tim Heron in the 23 car just behind Austin in number 44. Regular in the Northampton Knights karting team is Luke Austin. There's Palmer then in 2nd place. He's doing well here to fend off Wilson and Wallace, but it's Wells, the other of the 3 Ws, that's in the lead of the race. It's been a dramatic weekend for Wells. His engine failed in a road sports race yesterday. The car had to go back to Worcester to Hennessy Motorsport for a new engine to be fitted, and that job was completed at 12:30 last night. Jim Davis has some recovering to do. He's in 5th place at the moment. Matthew Wallace is ahead. Missed that gear at turn 1 on the opening lap. The race 1 winner, if he's going to make it a double this weekend, well, he really does have his work cut out. Such is the high level of competition in this Millers Oils Toyota MR2 Championship. Davis, though, gets a good run through Dean Hairpin that time. He's level pegging with Wallace into Yentwood. As we watch Wilson now chasing Palmer, it is possible for drivers, if they really want to push the limits, to explore the curbing on the exit of Yentwood. Palmer did that there. Now they're heading through Piff Path, left and then a right flick up towards this tight left-hander at Kirby. And there you can see that Davis, having got through to 4th position, is already piling the pressure onto John Wilson, the championship leader. Wilson, of course, coming into this weekend had only had 1 podium finish, and that's still the case. That came at Snetterton in the first of the races there, but the championship point scoring really does reward consistency, and Wilson has finished every race up inside the top 10. Here's Grimes making his way through the right-hander at Tarzan Hairpin onto the school straight, and that's the man who's just vanquished Stuart Nichols. Stuart Nichols has a problem though, doesn't he? Well, that's why he's been vanquished by the other roadster. Tim Heron goes flying by as well, and this does not look good for Stuart Nichols. He's pulling into the pit lane. There's something in the car that he's not happy with. Now, I just sensed a bit of a vibration on the onboard camera there. Maybe that's what's giving the Nichols a little bit of cause for concern, so we'll head into the pits to get that checked out. There's the sister car, Mick Nichols. He's about to head into turn number 1 then, just behind Luke Austin in the 44 car, just ahead of Dan Holmes in car number 92. 3 more cars queuing up behind. There's Stuart Nichols into the pits. The Rogue Motorsport team come down to have a look. Yes, it is something to do with that right front wheel. Possibly a loose wheel giving a vibration. Not a good vibration for Stuart Nichols. There's Grimes then, so he is second best of the roadsters at the moment, behind Jim Davis. Here's 3 red cars battling. Simon Wallace is involved, so is Ben Rowe, and so is Luke Austin. It's Ben Rowe trying to go around the outside. Tucks in behind Austin now as they head down the straight. Ben Rowe, who finished 13th position in the early race, looking to make up ground here, and he does go through. Well, he's really passed 2 cars there, hasn't he? He's gone through on the inside of Simon Wallace and of Luke Austin. But Austin takes a tighter exit out of the corner and gets back ahead of Ben Rowe. Well, this is a fight towards the back end of the top 10. Austin not quite able to repeat his first race pace and takes a sort of wider line through the Brook chicane there, and is able to really let Ben Rowe through almost uncontested, and Simon Wallace follows as well. So I really don't think that Luke Austin is happy with how this is going. He must have a problem with the car. Austin often shows some tremendous pace. What he's not really been able to do during the course of his MR2 career is convert that into the kind of results that he would have liked. Simon Wallace then at the head of this group. Now you can see Alex Knight in the 33 car is involved as well, and that is Nigel Ralphson in car number 85, who was trying to use a little bit more of the track than he should have done to make up some ground at Dean Hairpin. Well, Jim Davis still hasn't got past John Wilson. Heading up towards Kirby now. It's not for the want of trying on the part of Jim Davis. He wasn't sure this was a circuit that would suit the Roadster, which is less powerful than the Mark II. But this technical infield section really does suit the car, and he's side by side with Wilson now. Does he go through to 3rd position? Yes, he does. Good move that at Gracelands, and Jim Davis can move through to 3rd place now. The race 1 winner goes up 1 more position. John Wilson down to 4th. Now what can Jim Davis do about the 2 cars ahead of him? Running out over the pit lane entrance at the exit of Tarzan, now down the School Straight. Number 11, 3rd. Number 77, John Wilson, the 57-year-old from Worcester, in 4th position. He's a part-time stunt driver as well as an IT bloke, as he describes it, most of the time. And Wilson fighting back here now. He's side by side with Jim Davis as they come onto the banking at turn 4. 22 car there is Mark Barber doing battle with number 92, which is Dan Holmes, the 29-year-old from Northampton, an engineer by occupation. Brand new car for this season. Mark having his first car racing season as well. He's done a bit of karting in the past, as has Luke Austin, a couple of places ahead of him on the grid from the same neck of the woods really. Oh, now someone else there pulling into the pit lane, I noticed. I wonder if that was possibly Mark Bithry maybe. Mark, who from the back of the grid finished 17th in the opening race. So Austin has Holmes and Barber behind him, and that Mark Warren Leighton car as well, the car in the Swedish colours. Is that a mistake there from Jim Davis? It certainly allowed John Wilson to get back alongside him. He's not through yet though. Car co-owned by Hennessy Motorsport of John Wilson, sponsored by Compco Fire Systems. Without an engine rebuild by Rising Sun Racing as well. If you're a fan of Top Gear, you've probably seen John Wilson in action. He was involved in the Top Gear rugby team at Twickenham. It's John Wilson then, a bit further up the order, battling for that podium place. Craig Hamilton is that pale blue roadster that you could see going through shot there. On off! Off goes Luke Austin, just there you could see in the background. We picked that up with our camera at Kirby, yellow flags waving, but that was Luke Austin spearing off to the right hand side of the circuit, and he wasn't having a particularly happy race, and it's ended in the gravel trap for Luke Austin. Meanwhile, still in the pit lane is Stuart Nichols. He's had his nuts tightened, I think, and he's on his way back out again, but he has lost an awful lot of time. Now, in order to be classified in a race, you need to have completed 75% of the race distance completed by the race winner, so he will need to have done, by my reckoning, at least 8 laps out of the 9. We saw Luke Austin's car in the gravel there. Meanwhile, this is Matthew Palmer, second place man, seems to be not able to do a whole lot about the race leader. This is Mick Nichols, we're on board with him now. Down the steel straight, you can see the empty grandstands ahead of us. There are a good number of spectators here at Rockingham today. Oh, and he's into a slide! Had a moment here earlier on, but I've got a feeling this might have been caused by contact. And there's a tangle with Ben Rowe, who'd been making up places, had been climbing through the order. Mick Nichols spins and rejoins. Ben Rowe has got away with it relatively lightly. We didn't see how that started, but I sense there must have been contact that caused Mick Nichols to go into a spin there. It was a battle for around about 9th or 10th position, I think. Here's Matt Palmer drawing alongside Mike Wells now, who's defending furiously, and there might have been a little touch there, but it looked as if Mike Wells was a little bit slower through turn 1. Maybe he made a mistake, maybe he missed a gear, just as Jim Davies did at the beginning of this race, but I think he's put Matt Palmer through. No sign of Mike Wells in the mirrors. It looks as if Palmer has gone through into the lead of the race. Up towards Chapman they go. Palmer is back into the lead, well, back into the lead for the first time since Donington Park in actual fact. There he is, you can see him now, but only just ahead of Mike Wells, who sort of shows his nose to Palmer as they turn their way into Kirby Corner. Not too much longer left in this race either. Good time for Matt Palmer to grab the lead. Wells is right on his bumper though, they're almost touching, they are touching as they go through Gracelands. Matt Palmer's not in any danger of forgetting that Mike Wells is there. Jim Davies too has closed right in on them, making it 3 cars for the lead. And let's not forget Jim Davies won race number 1. Could he still have a say in proceedings here? Into the Brook chicane, it's Palmer and Wells. Wells taking a tighter line, was trying to find a gap, but it was closed by Palmer. And that's actually cost him a handful of car lengths. Alex Knight has Ben Rowe behind him. Knight has got up into 8th position. Rowe is 9th, and that's Ralphson in 10th place, with Simon Wallace, number 73, right behind him, the red car with the black bonnet. But the Glasgow restaurateur, Alex Knight, having a better race than he did a qualifying session, because he was back on row 10 for this race. In fact, he was row 11 of the grid, so Knight has had a meteoric charge through the field. Jonathan Grimes in car number 79 still going very well indeed, just behind Matthew Wallace there, who's in 4th position. Grimes turning his way through the right-hander. It's Wallace and Wilson just ahead, going past that Austin car that's stuck in the gravel trap. Down towards Kirby they go, and Wallace might get through on the inside of John Wilson here, the championship leader, but no. Grimes has a good run, looking to the outside now of Wallace, but he's going to be on the wide line for the sweeping left-hander at Gracelands. A better place to attack would surely be at Tarzan Hairpin at the end of this straight. Not too many corners left to go now though. We're on to the final lap of the race. Grimes tries to overlap at Tarzan Hairpin. He's never going to get around the outside of that Mark II. And Wallace holds on. Side by side though as they head down towards the left-hander. Meanwhile, here comes the leader. It is Matthew Palmer, but Jim Davies has gone, hasn't he? Jim Davies is out of the race. And so as the checkered flag flies, it's Matt Palmer that just takes the win from Mike Wells by less than 0.4 of a second. Thumbs up there from Jonathan Grimes. He comes home 5th in the end. The 6th place car is Tim Heron. He's had a lonely old race, and Christian White, he's going to be in 7th position. Earlier on, of course, he finished 9th, so a couple of places of improvement. Not quite such a dramatic race for him. 16 is Mark Warren Layton doing battle with Mark Farrelly in the 24 car. This is for 17th and 18th. Mark Warren Layton, it looks to me, has gone through. There's a lot of shuffling going on just behind, though. The 21 car is Phil Hutchins, just ahead of Craig Hamilton in 31. Back onto the banking they come. So this is 17th, 18th, 19th and 20th together. And look at them, they're virtually side by side. It's just going to be the 21 car that holds on to 19th place ahead of Fahey and Hamilton, who are 20th and 21st. Results time then, and the win goes to Matt Palmer by 0.384 seconds over Mike Wells. With Jim Davis, a late retirement, John Wilson moves up to complete the podium places ahead of Matthew Wallace, Jonathan Grimes and Tim Heron. Jim Davis did retire, but he did get the fastest lap of the race. This is how the championship points look 2/3 of the way through the season. Before drop scores are taken into account, John Wilson leads Matthew Palmer by 6 points. Tim Heron dropped to 3rd. Jim Davis stays in 4th despite his non-finish, with Benroe 5th and Clive Morford in 6th position.
Matt Palmer, another win to add to your collection this time round, and once again you timed it right towards the end to get past Michael Wells.
Yeah, that was more a mistake on Mike's part than me timing it to the end. I was gaining on him very slightly throughout the race, but he missed a gear and gave me a chance to slip down the inside of him.
With these good results now, it really bunches the championship at the top.
Yeah, it's really tight now going into the rest of the season. I think with drop scores we're in a slightly stronger position than those around us, but we just have to make sure we don't make any mistakes throughout the rest of the season.
Looking forward to Silverstone now?
Yeah, and again another new track, so it'll be another challenge, but yeah, can't wait.
Well done on the victory.
Thanks a lot.
That's all we've got time for at Rockingham. See you next time at Silverstone. Bye bye.